Mexico, 1996. In a dimly lit warehouse, a mason approaches a 200-liter barrel. Steam rises from the caustic liquid inside as he lifts a long metal rod. He begins to stir, watching the contents slowly break down. This isn't concrete or mortar in his barrel, it's his first experiment in dissolving human flesh. The cartels had given him simple instructions: make bodies disappear completely. Leave no trace. No evidence. Over the next 13 years, this man would transform from a humble builder into the most effective disposal specialist the criminal underworld had ever seen. His methods would help thousands of victims vanish without a trace, their families left forever searching. His name was Santiago Meza Lopez. To the cartels, he became known as El Pazolero, the Stew Maker. Welcome to True Crime Story Archive. Here we reveal the untold stories behind history's most shocking cases. The ones that other channels won't touch. The ones that authorities tried to bury. If you're ready to uncover the truth, subscribe now and become part of our community of truth seekers. March 2024. A Mexican courtroom falls silent as the judge delivers his verdict. Santiago Meza Lopez, now 71 years old, stands motionless as he receives an additional 30 years to his sentence. The families of the missing watch from the gallery, their eyes fixed on the aging man who holds the secrets to their loved ones' final moments. Yet this story begins 6 decades earlier, in the dusty streets of Sinaloa, 1964. Born into crushing poverty, Santiago was one of 10 children. His family's small home could barely contain them all. By age 7, he had already started working odd jobs, learning to mix cement and lay bricks alongside his father. The local builders noticed his careful attention to detail, his quiet dedication to perfecting each task. Through his teenage years, Santiago's reputation as a skilled mason grew. His hands could transform raw materials into solid foundations. He took pride in his craft, working sunrise to sunset, building homes for families across Sinaloa. The steady income helped feed his siblings, but it was never enough to lift them out of poverty. By his early 20s, Santiago had established himself as one of the most reliable masons in the region. His work caught the attention of wealthy clients, including members of the newly formed Arellano Felix organization. At first, they hired him for legitimate construction projects, reinforcing walls, building storage facilities, creating secure spaces for their operations. The cartel members noticed Santiago's methodical nature, his ability to keep quiet and follow instructions precisely. They began testing his loyalty with small tasks, delivering messages, keeping watch during meetings, maintaining their properties. Each job came with more money than he'd ever seen. For a man who grew up with nothing, the temptation proved overwhelming. Soon, Santiago was supervising drug storage facilities, managing the security of cartel properties. His technical knowledge made him valuable, but it was his unwavering loyalty that made him indispensable. He never asked questions, never complained about the hours, never spoke about his work to outsiders. Then came 1996. The cartel wars had turned Tijuana's streets into battlegrounds. Bodies were appearing everywhere in rivers, hanging from bridges, clogging the sewers. The police presence was increasing. The American DA was watching. The cartels needed a solution, and they turned to their trusted mason. Santiago's understanding of chemicals from his construction work made him the perfect candidate for their experimental disposal program. They showed him the mixture: caustic soda, water, and other compounds that could break down organic matter. For a man who had spent his life building things up, they now asked him to make things disappear. His first test wasn't with a human body, it was with animal remains. He watched as the chemicals dissolved flesh and bone, leaving nothing behind. The cartel leaders stood nearby, nodding in approval. They offered him a weekly salary of $600, more money than he'd ever made as a mason. Santiago accepted their offer. With that decision, El Pazolero was born, and the disappeared of Mexico would never be found. The humble mason who once built homes for families would spend the next 13 years destroying all traces of human life. His expertise with chemicals and attention to detail, the very skills that had once earned him honest work, would make him one of Mexico's most efficient instruments of death. The late 1990s marked a turning point in Mexico's drug war. The Arellano Felix organization faced a mounting crisis. Bodies were piling up faster than they could hide them. Every corpse discovered brought more police attention, more federal investigations, more questions they couldn't afford to answer. In desperation, the Arellano Felix brothers reached beyond Mexico's borders. They contacted foreign criminals who specialized in making evidence disappear. These consultants arrived with a solution that would revolutionize cartel disposal methods: a precise chemical formula that could reduce a human body to liquid in hours. The process required exact measurements: 200 liters of water, specific amounts of caustic soda, additional chemicals that would speed up decomposition. The temperature had to be perfect, the timing precise. Too much of one ingredient would leave traces. Too little would extend the process, risking discovery. Santiago's first real test came on a cold morning in 1996. The barrel waited, filled with the chemical mixture. A group of cartel members watched as Santiago worked. He had to prove he could handle the task without hesitation, without error. They brought him a large piece of meat, his practice run. He worked methodically, stirring the solution as it bubbled and frothed. The meat disappeared within hours, leaving only a murky liquid behind. The cartel members exchanged satisfied glances. But this was only the beginning. 6 months later, they called Santiago again. This time, the test subject wasn't meat from a butcher shop. A body lay wrapped in plastic beside the barrel. Real human remains. Santiago's hands didn't shake as he unwrapped the plastic. His mason's precision served him well as he lowered the corpse into the chemicals. Through the night, he stirred the mixture. By morning, only a red-tinted sludge remained, with fragments of bone floating on the surface. The cartel had found their solution. Santiago had found his new profession. Word spread through criminal networks about the man who could make bodies vanish completely. The Arellano Felix organization set up multiple sites across Tijuana, each with rows of barrels ready for Santiago's expertise. They developed a system: bodies would arrive at predetermined locations, marked by flashing headlights or quick phone calls. Santiago expanded his operation. He ordered industrial quantities of protective gear: latex gloves, gas masks to shield against the caustic fumes. He perfected his timing, learning exactly how long each dissolution required. He built drainage systems to handle the liquid remains, designed storage areas for the chemicals, created disposal sites for the few fragments that wouldn't dissolve. His expertise grew with each body. The cartel's investment had paid off. Their disposal problem was solved. No more bodies in rivers. No more corpses on street corners. Just barrels of chemicals and a man who knew exactly how to use them. Mexico's Baja California, late 1990s. Santiago's operation expanded across multiple locations. The first site, known as the Chicken Coop, sprawled across an isolated patch of land in Maclovio Rojas. Here, Santiago installed an intricate drainage system beneath the soil, designed to handle the heavy flow of liquefied remains. Every week followed a precise schedule. Monday mornings began with chemical preparations. Santiago measured exact quantities of caustic soda, mixing them with water in the 200-liter barrels. Each barrel required careful attention: too much or too little of any ingredient would compromise the process. The bodies arrived at night. Headlights flashing twice meant a delivery was coming. Santiago's team worked quickly, unloading the wrapped packages. 30 bodies a month, sometimes more. Each victim required 8 hours of constant attention. The chemicals had to be stirred regularly, the temperature monitored, the process watched carefully. Santiago kept detailed records of his supplies. Oil drums stacked in corners. Boxes of latex gloves. Gas masks hanging on hooks. The chemicals ate through everything: metal, fabric, flesh. Only the masks protected his workers from the caustic fumes that rose from the barrels. As his reputation grew, so did the workload. The cartel built a second site called La Galleria. More barrels. More drainage systems. More bodies. The operation ran day and night. The chemical mixture bubbled constantly, breaking down flesh and bone until nothing recognizable remained. What wouldn't dissolve teeth, fingernails, bone fragments Santiago burned and buried in the fields. He chose locations carefully, marking them in his memory. Years later, investigators would find these burial sites, uncovering thousands of fragments that told the silent story of his work. The work became routine, mechanical. Each body followed the same process. The operation continued seamlessly. New bodies. Same chemicals. Same process. The victims changed, but the work remained constant. The true number of bodies that passed through Santiago's workshops remains unknown. He claimed 300 in his confession. The evidence tells a different story. 14,000 fragments in one site alone. Thousands more scattered across other locations. Each fragment representing someone's family member, someone's loved one, someone who disappeared into Santiago's barrels and never returned. Santiago's position as El Pazolero placed him at the center of Mexico's cartel power structure. The Arellano Felix brothers trusted him completely, giving him access to their most guarded secrets. Each body he dissolved represented a cartel operation, a rival eliminated, or a message sent. His work kept their secrets buried. 2008 brought a shift in power. Teodoro Garcia Cimental, known as El Teo, Santiago's direct supervisor, grew dissatisfied with the Arellano Felix organization. The split was violent, immediate. El Teo pledged allegiance to their greatest rival, the Sinaloa cartel, run by El Chapo Guzman. Santiago faced a choice. Stay with the Arellano Felix brothers who had trained him, or follow El Teo to their enemies. The decision took moments. Santiago chose money over loyalty. Within days, he was dissolving bodies for the Sinaloa cartel. Many of his new victims were his former colleagues, people he had worked alongside for years. The transition proved seamless. The chemical formula remained the same. The barrels still bubbled. The remains still disappeared. Only the victims changed. Santiago's reputation grew stronger. He was now the man who served both sides, the keeper of every cartel's darkest secrets. Money flowed freely. Santiago's weekly salary remained steady at $600. The work was constant. His expertise unique. He grew comfortable, perhaps too comfortable. The careful mason who once watched every shadow began to relax. He attended parties, drank openly, moved through Tijuana without fear. His position seemed untouchable. Both cartels needed his services. The police couldn't find his disposal sites. The families of the disappeared had no bodies to bury. Santiago's method was perfect until it wasn't. By late 2008, his name began appearing in police reports. 2 captured kidnappers mentioned El Pazolero. They described his work in detail. The careful operation that had run for years in shadows suddenly had a spotlight on it. The FBI added him to their most wanted list. Still, Santiago didn't worry. He had survived previous investigations. His work was too valuable to the cartels. Their protection seemed absolute. This confidence would prove to be his downfall. January 2009. A house party in Baja California. Santiago, drunk on power and alcohol, played music too loud. Cooked seafood in the open. Celebrated as if he wasn't one of Mexico's most wanted men. He ignored the warnings. Dismissed the danger. The careful craftsman who had kept cartel secrets for years had forgotten his own rules of survival. January 25, 2009. Music echoed through the Baja Seasons neighborhood. Santiago stood over a grill, cooking seafood, alcohol flowing freely. The party had been going for hours. Neighbors watched through windows as cartel members and women moved in and out of the house. Someone in the neighborhood made a call. Police dispatch received the complaint about noise, but when they heard the address, they contacted the Mexican army immediately. El Pazolero had finally made a mistake. El Teo sensed the danger first. He gathered his men, 30 of them, and fled into the night. Santiago remained at his grill, too drunk to notice his protection vanishing. The music still played when military vehicles surrounded the house. Soldiers moved in, weapons raised. They found Santiago alone, swaying over his seafood. As they handcuffed him, he slurred out threats about their ignorance. The soldiers just smiled. They knew exactly who they had caught. Hours later, in an interrogation room, Santiago's alcohol-induced confidence faded. He began to talk. 300 bodies, he claimed. Each one dissolved in his chemical bath. 8 hours per body. The mathematical precision of his confession chilled even hardened investigators. The military organized raids on his disposal sites. The chicken coop yielded its first discoveries: fragments of bone, thousands of teeth, remnants that refused to dissolve. Each day brought new horrors. Forensics teams uncovered burial site after burial site. Santiago's claim of 300 victims crumbled under the evidence. 7,000 human fragments in one site alone. 2,000 teeth in another. The numbers kept growing. 14,000 fragments at La Galleria. Each piece representing someone's disappearance, someone's loss. Families of the missing crowded police stations. They brought photos, dental records, any information that might help identify the fragments. The true scale of Santiago's operation emerged. Not hundreds of bodies, thousands. Each dissolved completely, families left with no graves to visit, no remains to bury. The discovery of Santiago's operation exposed the cartel's disposal system. The efficient method they had developed to hide their victims. The precise chemical formula that had turned human beings into liquid waste, poured into the earth of Baja California. Maclovio Rojas became ground zero for Mexico's largest forensic investigation. The earth held Santiago's secrets: an intricate network of drainage pipes, disposal pits, and mass graves. Each excavation revealed new horrors. The soil, saturated with chemical residue, told the story of thousands of dissolutions. Forensic teams worked methodically through each site. They sifted soil samples, cataloged bone fragments, collected teeth. Laboratory analysis revealed the brutal efficiency of Santiago's method. The chemical mixture had been perfectly calibrated, strong enough to dissolve flesh and most bone, but leaving trace elements that science could still detect. The chicken coop yielded its grim harvest first. 7,000 human fragments. 2,000 teeth. Each piece carefully documented, each fragment telling part of a larger story. Then came La Galleria, 14,000 more fragments. The numbers kept climbing as new sites emerged. Families gathered at police stations across Baja California. They brought photographs, dental records, any information that might help identify the remains. Mothers clutched pictures of missing sons. Wives carried dental x-rays of vanished husbands. Children brought documents belonging to parents who had disappeared years ago. One mother spoke of searching for her son for 12 years. Another described visiting every morgue in Tijuana, hoping to find her husband. The fragments in the soil represented their last hope of knowing what happened to their loved ones. Each tooth, each bone fragment, could be the answer to years of uncertainty. The chemical residue in the soil revealed Santiago's precise process. The drainage systems showed his engineering skill. The scale of the operations exposed the cartel's systematic approach to disposing of their victims. What had once been people, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, had been reduced to elements in the soil. Scientists worked to extract DNA from the fragments. Each successful identification brought closure to one family, but opened wounds for countless others. The fragments represented thousands of victims, but Santiago's drainage systems had carried away thousands more, their remains now lost forever in the earth of Baja California. August 2017 brought another discovery: 3 new graves containing 7,000 more human fragments. Each new site expanded the scale of Santiago's operation. The careful mason who built things had spent 13 years taking them apart, molecule by molecule, person by person. The families still gather at the sites. They bring flowers, photos, memories. They stand on soil that may hold traces of their loved ones. Some pray. Some weep. Some just stand in silence, wondering if this earth, this chemical-soaked ground, is the only grave they'll ever have to visit. 2012 marked Santiago's first encounter with justice. The court handed down a 10-year sentence for organized crime. The families watched in disbelief. 10 years for thousands of lives erased. The prosecution faced a unique challenge. How do you prove murder without bodies? Santiago's efficiency had destroyed the evidence of his crimes. Years passed. Santiago sat in his cell while forensic teams continued uncovering fragments. Each new discovery added to the growing file of evidence. The families of the missing pressed for additional charges, demanding justice for their disappeared loved ones. March 2024. Santiago, now 71, returned to court. The evidence had mounted. The prosecution presented new charges: kidnapping, continued involvement with organized crime. This time, the judge showed no leniency. 30 additional years. The families in the gallery watched as Santiago's face remained unchanged at the verdict. Today, Santiago faces 40 years behind bars. His age means he will likely spend his final days in prison. Yet for many, the sentence means little. Thousands of fragments remain unidentified. Countless families still wait for answers. The investigations continue. Each month brings new discoveries. Ground-penetrating radar reveals more disposal sites. Scientists develop new methods to extract DNA from chemically damaged remains. The earth of Baja California continues to yield its secrets. Fernando Osegueda Flores, president of the United Association of the Missing, speaks for many. This man holds the truth about our loved ones. Each day he stays silent is another day we search without answers. Santiago Meza Lopez, the mason who became El Pozolero, sits in his cell. The skills he once used to build homes were perverted to destroy lives. His chemical expertise erased thousands from existence. His precision engineering helped hide a genocide. The soil of Baja California holds his legacy. Thousands of fragments. Countless tears. Families still searching. The truth lies in that earth, in those fragments, in the silence of a man who turned bodies into chemicals, and chemicals into ghosts. As Santiago serves his 40 years, new disposal sites emerge. More fragments surface. The investigation continues. His story reveals the darkest capabilities of human nature, how technical skill and precision can serve the most horrific purposes. How a builder of homes became a destroyer of lives. The families still wait. They stand at the sites where their loved ones may have vanished. They visit the earth that holds whatever remains. They seek answers in soil soaked with chemicals and secrets. This is their legacy of El Pozolero, not just the man who dissolved bodies, but the thousands of lives he dissolved with them. Remember to like and subscribe to True Crime Story Archive for more untold stories that history tried to forget.